Welcome back to the My Latin Life podcast. Since 2014, My Latin Life has been your trusted guide to traveling and living in Latin America. Our guest today is Peter Coles. From Peter Coles Languages, he's blown up on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the platforms, talking about language learning in a very real and raw way. I really like your approach, Peter. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. And I guess full disclosure, we've met in person. We got some beers in Prague.
We got more than a few beers. We got about 10 beers. But that was good. That was back in November. That was a good time.
Yeah, I was in town for the Free Cities conference, which was pretty interesting. And then Peter happened to be in town. And I got my first Czech beers, Prague beers.
That was your first time in the city, right?
Yeah.
What did you think of Prague?
Dude, so cool. I really liked it.
Yeah. When are you coming back?
Soon. I got to do a whole. I want to circumnavigate Europe and drive around the whole thing, like in a circle.
How much of Europe have you seen so far?
There's a lot left to be desired. So you, my friend, and we'll set the stage here. So you speak some 25 plus languages, or how do you describe your languages?
So I say 25 because it's approximate. The reason is you can never quite say when you speak a language. There is a start point. You speak no language. I assume you speak absolutely no Arabic, for example. You have basically zero. There is no end point. So when do you say you can speak a language? I simply say that I can speak a language when I can hold a conversation fluently, not perfectly. Fluently is when I can speak to somebody, understand basically everything they say, and I can say everything I want to say. It doesn't mean I can say every single word, but I can get around it. So there's approximately 25 languages I can do that in. Okay,
so 25 languages. And your biggest platform is TikTok or Instagram?
Instagram is bigger. Instagram is almost at 200K. TikTok was pretty slow. It was going up maybe 1,000 a month, but now we've crossed 50K. So TikTok is slowly blowing up. And the next thing, obviously, is YouTube. YouTube is the next frontier of mine.
Okay, so we'll try to maybe compartmentalize things, but I would love to ask a bit about your social media strategy as well and how you're doing on TikTok and Instagram, because you definitely strike a chord. You found, a formula that works, it seems. So very curious there. And then the language learning piece of it as well is obviously super fascinating. I've always, Peter, been a student of the famous polyglots. So you have like Mezzofanti, Cardinal Mezzofanti, you've probably heard of, was like famous ever. Then there was Sir Richard Francis Burton, also very famous. And there's like this history of famous polyglots.
Absolutely. And it's funny, because of social media, we're more visible and people really don't believe that we can do it. So what I've got is now a system that I will do a 20, 30-minute interview in each language I speak. And all that has to be done is a video of me speaking a language gets 1,000 views and I just release another one. So if anyone doesn't believe me, all you have to do is go over to my YouTube, watch all the interviews in my languages, and I'll keep releasing more.
Can you walk me through kind of your language journey from the beginning? Because I think it's important to see to people like how you can sort of bolt on more languages from the same language family and stuff. So how did you start in kind of your first language per language family? And
yeah, of course. So I started speaking English as my native language growing up in the UK, but because of my family and connections, I then learned German at a very young age. So I had English and German. So they're two Germanic languages. I started learning French when I was age 3. So of course, started very early, went to France, started speaking to people. So that's my first Romance language. And when I was a child, somebody told me that you couldn't learn more than 3 languages. And that was almost a trauma for me. It stuck in my head. I believed I couldn't do more. And then when I was 8, I went to the Netherlands for the first time. And I could understand the Dutch because it's half English, half German. I realized, I could learn another language. So I picked up Dutch very quickly. When I was a teenager, I learned Italian, and Italian was easier because I could already speak French. And by the time I went to university, I realized there was no limit. So I studied 8 languages at university. Obviously, English and German,
And
which is
where
sort of my
did
native
you go
languages.
to university, or what country again?
In Innsbruck in Austria.
In Austria. Okay.
Yeah, so I had English and German. I studied also French and Dutch and Italian. I then picked up Spanish because I knew that it was very similar. I wanted to learn Russian, but Russian and Italian were at the same time. And I thought, okay, I need Italian more than Russian. Turns out it wasn't true because I ended up moving to Eastern Europe and having relationships with girls who only speak Russian. So that might have been a bad choice. And I also studied Chinese and Japanese at university. However, I cheated in Chinese and I failed Japanese. So in the Chinese exam, what happened was she said, give in your phones. And I had 2 phones. So I just gave her one phone and kept the other one and cheated with it. And in the speaking exam, I just put a bit of paper in front of me with all the answers. And she said, what's on the paper? I said, nothing. She said, okay. So I sort of cheated in Chinese. And in Japanese, I totally failed because I walked into the classroom and it was just a sea of Asian faces. And when I asked, why are you all Asians doing Japanese? They said, oh, because we're business students and we're all from China and Korea. So we chose to do the easiest language to learn. By the way, for an English speaker, Japanese is the hardest language. So I totally failed that. But I got my revenge on them because I got the exam and it had 100 questions. I did the first 3 and then gave the test into the teacher and said, oh, that was really easy. I walked out and they're all horrifically shocked. So those were the first 8 languages I learned, and I'd been about 21. And after that point, I've learned about 1 language a year since that point. Yeah.
There's so many notes I want to touch on here, but I think maybe we should bust the myth that it is possible to learn more than 3 languages, because some have argued that language is really a work of memory, and there's just not like it, and your brain sort of when information is useless, it gets rid of it, right? So that it can free up
Yeah.
space in your mental RAM. So you can forget languages if you don't use them. So, it's is it kind of a question of maintaining 25 languages, or how do you think about it?
I'm not sure about forgetting languages. Lots of people talk about it and say, oh, I've forgotten this language. I don't know why I never do. There are some languages I haven't spoken for years. And if I have to, I just go straight back into it 5 years later. I don't know why people forget. Maybe it's because my brain thinks languages are important. Every language is important, therefore I never forget it. And some people have learned, I don't know, they live in Latin America, they learned Spanish, they went back to the States or to Canada, didn't speak it, and their brain thought, oh, we don't need this anymore. My brain doesn't think this. I don't know why people forget languages. I don't know if you've had this forgetting languages.
So maybe one way to think about it is like if each language is what, 20, 30,000 words,
Yep.
and if you're learning 20, 25 languages, I mean, obviously there's like words in multiple languages, but does that mean there's basically like what, like 500,000 words in your brain? Is that
Very possibly so. And then you've got to remember for languages like Chinese, I've also got thousands of characters that I have to have memorized stroke by
right?
stroke in my head and writing systems. So I have all this stuff in my brain. It probably means that there are other things I absolutely can't do. I have no concept of mathematics. I could do basic arithmetic. But for example, when I was 16, I learned mathematics at school. I did the exam. I think I got a B, which was very lucky for me. And a week later, I just forgot all of it. And I think our brains do this. They do forget the things, not things that we don't necessarily use, but the things that our brains think are not important. So if you think mathematics is important, you'll never forget it. If you think that languages are important, you'll remember them. But if you think this language isn't necessary anymore, I did it just to pass an exam at school, for example, your brain will just forget it. And a year later, you won't be able to speak the language.
Exactly. So that's kind of what I was picking up on with maintenance, but maybe it's something else. Maybe it's just mentally deeming it important, which is kind of a hard, you have to like
Absolutely.
control your brain.
Yeah, but I think we can't really decide if it's important or not. It's based on if we are passionate about it. The
Mhm.
reason I learned so many languages is not because I just worked very hard. It's because I'm really passionate about what I do. I truly love this. People ask me often, do you not have a job? And I say, this is my job. Learning lots of languages is literally my job. And it is the way I get big on social media, and my language school is all based upon the fact that I can do this. So I'm really motivated to do it. If you don't have that motivation, you're probably not going to be able to do what I do. But would anybody really want to speak 25 languages? I mean, if I give you an injection now and you could just speak 25 languages, sure, you would do it. But most people wouldn't want to go through this whole process of studying languages all day. When you were talking about maintaining languages, it reminded me of what I spoke about on Instagram actually just yesterday. How many languages I speak in a day. I woke up and spoke to my girlfriend in Russian. Then I had a call online like this in Arabic for 1 hour. Then I went to the barber, got my haircut, spoke to him in Czech, met somebody in the street with a question they asked me in French. I then had another hour meeting in Hungarian, a meeting after that in Ukrainian for 1 hour, and then I watched some other language, I can't remember what it was, on Netflix in the evening. So that's how you maintain languages. Yeah.
Okay, and so how many languages do you use in a day, you think, on average, in multicultural Prague?
This is funny because I spoke about this yesterday on my Instagram. I woke up and spoke Russian to my girlfriend. Then I had an hour-long call like this in Arabic. I went to the barber and spoke to him in Czech. I met somebody in the street and spoke to them in French. I had another meeting online in Hungarian, another meeting after that in Ukrainian, and then I watched something on Netflix in another language. So as you can see, I'm speaking all these different languages throughout the day. That's possibly how I remember them. If you just work in an office all day, you sit at university and never use languages, you're not going to remember them. But using them is a fantastic tool for learning languages and remembering them.
I want to back it up a little bit to the very beginning when you did German and kind of like how this seed really sprung. Because then maybe we could glean something there for maybe how to raise kids in a multilingual
Absolutely.
way. So how did you go from being in the UK to German? You had German family or something?
Yeah, and I just was surrounded by people who spoke German, and I wanted to speak the language. I'd hear it, and I really wanted to speak this language. So I almost learned it as a first language. I picked it up
When
as
you
a
were like
child
three?
would. Yeah, when I was a young child, all the way
You had
until I
people
was a
speaking
teenager.
German around you in the UK?
Yeah, I was surrounded by German speakers. So I was really passionate about this language.
Okay.
And of course, I'd have French at school, and I'd say, oh, no, I don't want to speak French. German is everything. Obviously, now I'm 33. I almost never speak German, so it's really weird that I have this other second first language almost that I never use.
You don't use it much? It's pretty useful in Europe, no?
It is, but I just don't come across it so much. I force myself into situations where I have to speak lots of different languages. I obviously hear it. I could speak it if I have to. I was in Switzerland last week, so I was speaking German. But compared to sort of Russian or Ukrainian or Czech, these languages I'm using all the time. And in my language school, for example, there are loads of Americans who want to learn Spanish. So I've got these Spanish teachers. I'm calling them all the time. I'm communicating with all these people around the world. You say I live in the Czech Republic. I don't really go out unless I go for beers with you or something. I'm here in my office, learning languages, making videos, doing podcasts. I'm in my own little zone with the whole world around me, sort of doing calls. So it doesn't really matter where I am.
Hmm. How is Switzerland, by the way?
How politically correct can I be? Or politically incorrect? Switzerland is like Germany, but better because they don't have their new friends there. Yeah. It's safe, much safer than Germany, and very clean, very tidy, very organized. It's what people probably thought Germany was 20 years ago.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Okay. And so you're speaking German somehow as a 3-year-old. You go to the Netherlands when you're 8. You half understand it. But I imagine you were only there for like a week or something. And then
Yeah.
you go back home and you kept studying?
Oh, well, hasn't got a video element to it, but I bought a little book that had sort of like Dutch phrases in, and I would just go through it and I understood everything. And
Hmm.
then I would speak enough to be able to communicate. I did actually live in the Netherlands for 3 years. I've been in the Czech Republic now for 9 years. I lived in Holland for 3 years before that. I lived there for 3 years, but it took me 3 weeks to be able to basically speak this language fluently. If you speak English and German, you can learn Dutch like that in a second. It's really easy.
I believe it. I just know the tweet on Twitter. It's like, we have a serious problem. And it looks like the same as English.
Yeah, and I'm sitting in the train in Dutch is like, ik zit in de trein. I saw some of these today. And what is the time? What is the tijd? And you're like, this language.
Yeah, this is underrated, I think, how Dutch is like our bro language, German as well.
Yeah. Yeah, but because English speakers never really learn other languages, they don't learn Dutch. But this is why, obviously, Dutch speakers learn English so well and so quickly. It's their brother language. You're the Latin podcast. It's like Portuguese and Spanish, but maybe even more similar.
Hmm. Definitely. And they have this language, Frisian or something, that's like the
Yeah.
closest living relative to English.
100%. So this Frisian in the north of the Netherlands is really close to English. So you take Dutch, as I've just said, and then make it like 50% even closer to English. It's like basically how English people would have spoken a few hundred years ago.
Yeah. Have you seen it? Have you like interacted with that?
Very little. When I lived there, I got this special ticket that meant I could travel all around the country on weekends for free. And I went to that region once because it was like 4 hours from where I lived. I visited and thought, wow, what is this place? Small town, a bunch of sheep, some people with a funny little language. Yeah, all right. I've seen it.
No, that's cool. So you stuck with Dutch, and part of it was just having some books around the house. It sounds like.
Yeah, literally. Now, for most linguists, if you can't speak German, if you just speak English, you would have to put some effort into it, but it would be much easier than other languages. In fact, I would argue that, for example, an American or a Canadian who wants to learn Spanish or Portuguese, Dutch would be easier for them than Spanish and Portuguese.
I could see that. Yeah.
Yeah. But how many Americans honestly want to move to the Netherlands rather than Mexico or Colombia?
Right. It's the famous phrase, right? Like a language is an accent with an army.
Exactly, 100%. This is why I don't learn little languages. People always say, well, you're a language guy, almost treating me like a nerd. Why don't you learn Navajo or something like this Native American language? I'm like, bro, why would I? I really want to stick to these really big languages and get sort of the top 20 languages really fluent.
Yeah, I think about this the same way. I've tweeted about this. You have, the six languages of the UN, right? And
Yep.
that's, you do those six, and you have pretty good coverage.
You're always mentioning the subjects I've done on my Instagram, like a few days ago. I did one, I think it was yesterday or the day before, where I said you only have to learn four languages to be able to speak to over 50% of the world: Chinese, English, Hindi, and Spanish. And I said, assuming you never want to go to India, you can replace Hindi with Arabic or French and still speak to more than 50% of the world's population.
Hmm.
It's not that hard.
So let me ask you about Arabic specifically.
Yeah.
Where are you at with that? You're working on Arabic. I'm genuinely curious about this one.
Yeah, I've been working on Arabic for the last 8 weeks. It's almost 8 weeks to the day. I started it just before Christmas, and we're sort of just over halfway through February. So after 8 weeks of study with my teacher, doing 4 times a week, obviously she doesn't work on Fridays, I've got to a standard where I can hold an okay conversation in Arabic after just 8 weeks. It's not perfect, lots of mistakes, lots of misunderstandings, lots of asking what this word is, but I don't necessarily need English to communicate with the teacher anymore.
So how are you approaching the language? Like, because this is interesting. You started one just 2 months ago. Um, I guess this would obviously be your first language in the Semitic family, or I don't know if
Yeah,
you know Hebrew or something.
no, I don't. I've been to Israel once and I wasn't a big fan of it. Everyone asking for money, asking for huge tips like in the US. Not for me.
Okay, and so first language in this language family, Arabic. How's it going so far?
Well, I could already read and write the script when I was a child, because when I was at school, we had English class, and I always thought English class was ridiculous because I am English. Why am I doing this? And there was a huge dictionary at the back of the classroom, and I just took it. And at the back of that dictionary was all the different alphabets. You had the Russian alphabet, the Greek alphabet, the Arabic alphabet. And instead of listening to the teacher and learning about some stupid poems, I got this dictionary out and I just learned the script over and over again, every class, repeating, writing out the Arabic script. So I could always read and write in Arabic. And now all I'm doing is filling in the spaces and understanding what the words actually mean.
So I've studied a little bit. It's cool how it is just a normal, what do you say, alphabet with 26
Yeah.
odd letters. So it is a
Yep.
little bit more approachable, I think, than something like Chinese, because you have like a standard alphabet and it comes together into words the
Yeah.
way we're sort of used to.
Yeah. Chinese is especially difficult because every word has its own symbol. And for that word, you have to learn its symbol. Arabic is easier because they have an alphabet you can use, but it
Yeah.
does have like four forms. So a letter, let's say in English, A, B, or C, will change the way you write it depending if it's by itself, at the start of the word, in the middle of the word, or at the end of the word. So that's a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I did maybe like 20 hours of Arabic on Duolingo, but I didn't really
Yeah.
get too far. Um, but so I'm curious because yeah, I think I'm going to Dubai in like a month or two and might do a little
Yep.
tour and hit some of the countries around there. But so how are you approaching the Arabic? You said 4 times a week with a teacher, and then give
Yeah.
us like your full learn a language stack here.
What I'm currently learning, or
Like the way you're doing it. So it's like you're doing one-on-one lessons with the teacher, and then you're
yep.
probably reading, and then you're probably, I don't know, watching movies.
Yep. So for some languages, they'll have a set of textbooks. For Arabic, they don't have that. So the teacher or the school I cooperate with has an online system, which is basically like a textbook, but just sort of in PDFs. So we go through that together with them. We got all the vocabulary, we got the grammar, we got text. So we read together and then we have to write some things. So for an hour a day, 4 times a week, I do that with the teacher. And then in my free time, I have to go through everything we've done. So an extra hour, at least every single day, I look at all the words we've done together, the texts I read again. And then in my free time, if I can, I will go to Netflix or whatever and watch content. Obviously, unfortunately, Netflix has got lots of content in different languages. It doesn't have much Arabic, but I make the most of it if possible. And then obviously you would go and speak to people if you can. But obviously, I live in Prague, so we're not surrounded by many Arabs here. But if I lived in Dubai or somewhere else, I'd definitely be out and about talking to people, many people as possible. It'll be the case for your guys, especially in Latin America. If they're learning Spanish and Portuguese, they just have to be out there and talking to people and making mistakes because there's nothing wrong with making mistakes. Making mistakes is great because that's what you learn from.
Absolutely. And so you're working with the teacher. It sounds like you're working through like a workbook, almost like something that you might find in a school.
Yes. However, because there aren't many official workbooks for Arabic, of course, I think that's partially because they have so many countries
There
that no
must be.
one
There must be.
thing.
There must be
There
tons of
are
books.
some, yeah, but normally for most countries, let's take China, for example. It's one single fixed country. So they have what's called
Yeah.
the HSK method, produced by the University of Beijing. This is our official national method, our official books, and we give it out. Arabs are so divided by so many different countries that they can't really decide what textbooks to use. There's so many different ones. So this school created their own system, basically.
Gotcha. So I think Egyptian Arabic is kind of like the standard regional dialect, right? So
Yeah.
maybe you're focusing on that.
Well, I'm actually focused on what's called Khaliji. It's the Gulf Arabic because I spend most of my time in the UAE and those countries around there. So it's almost like a bit more of
Hmm.
a difficult dialect,
Dude,
but I'm
you
going to
might
work
be
my way back.
right. You might be right. Why learn it? Why learn Egyptian? Like Egypt is like Cairo's kind of hell on earth, and from some of the photos I've seen, you might as well learn Gulf Arabic and endear yourself to the rich people.
Yeah, of course. I've been to the UAE 3 times. I've been to Morocco once. I've entered Palestine once just for a few minutes. Besides that, I've not really seen the Arabic world. So why not just learn the dialect of the place you most go to? And I'm planning to move everything over to the UAE in the near
It's kind of like a
future.
Saudi Oman type of dialect. Sorry, I cut you off there. You're moving
No,
what?
no, no. I think we have a bit of a lag, so don't worry. The Gulf dialect is mostly spoken in Saudi, UAE, Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, and Kuwait. But of course, there are some differences between them. The UAE and the Saudi have a few differences. But in general, that's their dialect region. So that's one dialect. And then the second dialect is Levant. You've got Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine. You've got Iraq, that's a bit different. You've got Egypt, that's like the fourth dialect. And then you've got North Africa, which is Tunisia, Algeria, and Morocco. Those are the five main different dialects of Arabic. And then you have what's called Fusha, which is like the official Quran Arabic, but nobody actually speaks. Everyone can understand it, And only in official situations would they use it, but everyone uses their own dialect. And that's another reason why there aren't so many textbooks for Arabic, because all these different dialects don't really match perfectly together.
Gotcha. And so you've been looking for Gulf dialect specific materials.
Yes, and Gulf dialect is very difficult to learn in a way because there aren't many teachers for it. Because obviously, if you're from the Gulf region, you've got a bunch of money, right? Why would you be a teacher for $40 an hour when you're making 10K from doing nothing? So it's very hard to get a teacher for that. Fortunately, I've got a teacher who is from Jordan, who then sort of lived and grew up and worked in Saudi and now moved back. So she's happy to work for a normal amount of money. But yeah, Gulf Arabic teachers are highly sought after.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting way of approaching it. And so do you think when you think about how you spend your time with the tutor, are you doing a mix of workbooks and then also just like conversation back and forth? Because it's kind of a different style, no?
Yeah, for most languages, you have a textbook and a workbook. I keep wanting to show you, of course, those listening to us won't be able to see. But you normally have two books for each level. You have a workbook and a textbook. The textbook explains the language and the workbook is exercises. As I said, you don't really have that for Arabic. So their online system, which is basically a textbook and a workbook together, you have the explanations and then you have the tasks and you have to sort of read the text. We're still at the level of reading text. We're not doing so much grammar and stuff. And then there's a lot of talking. Obviously, as someone who loves talking in languages, I'm talking more than most students. I'm just blabbing, making mistakes. If anyone listening to this wants to learn a language, don't worry during your classes about talking. The teacher will be happy. Take your time with the exercise. Talk as much as you can.
Yeah, so tell us about the school. So you have you've kind of turned this into a business. You have a language learning school.
Yes, I have my own school, which is based on me having worked with lots of other teachers and schools. So the teachers that I know or I've worked with or I've studied with myself, I know they're good, therefore. So I've set up my own school where all a person who has to want to learn a language needs to do is write to me either on Telegram or on TikTok or Instagram, wherever they want to find me. I'm everywhere. And you just say what language you want to learn. And you maybe tell me your age, why you want to learn it, what time zone you're on, because the time zone might be a problem, especially if you're in North America or something. But I will then find you a teacher that I know or I've worked with and I know is good. And then the teacher simply pays me a commission for that. I found them a student. So that's basically how the whole business works.
That's cool. And how long have you been able to be sort of full-time working in the language business now?
It's not that long. I'm 33 now, and I spent my 20s doing all these different kinds of projects. And people said to me, Peter, you speak so many languages. How are you not making money off this? And I said, I don't know how really. It's just a hobby. And about a year and a half ago, coming up to 2 years ago, one of my friends forced me to start social media. And I said, let's try it, whatever. And it went to sort of 100,000 followers in a year. And it's almost at 200,000 after a year and a half. So I'm totally shocked how much this social media has blown up. And only since I had this social media was I really able to enlarge my school. And because I used to have students who knew me or I've met before. Now I have the whole world that can come to me. So only since the social media, it's really blown up. So that's why if anyone listening is thinking about doing social media and they have a certain skill or an area of knowledge, definitely get into social media and just try it. Just keep posting every single day and you'll get there.
Dude, absolutely. You've been really consistent with it. It seems like you have a couple different formats of videos.
Yeah.
And so obviously there's some experimentation that goes along with that as well.
Yeah, there's actually a system. So for the first year, I was just making videos that were funny. So I was playing on words to get millions of views. I got up to 40 million views a month, saying things like, how do you say 11 months in Estonian? And then the answer is, cocks taste good. Obviously, you're just going to get millions of views with silly videos like that. And over the last few months, I've slowly started to change it, now that I've got over 180,000 followers, to much fewer silly videos and just talking videos. So I'm explaining to people how I learn languages, why I learn languages, the mistakes that people make, which languages you should learn. So I've totally changed it. Now I've got a captive audience to switch that audience from just being entertained to being educated.
And I know we're jumping back and forth between sort of business stuff and language learning. How do you package your messages in video format? Like you do almost all shorts, right? Like do you do any like 10-minute long form, or is it 100% shorts?
So everything I do on YouTube and TikTok is short form. A minute would be the absolute maximum. Often it could be as little as 20 seconds. That's just to grab people's attention.
Yeah.
I need followers. I need them watching. I need them knowing who I am. And then you get all this short form. I've done thousands of videos now on these platforms. And then what you need to get them to do is to come over to the YouTube. Now, the YouTube is where you've got the long form. There are videos between 10 to 30 or even more minutes where I sit and explain a concept, exactly how I learn a language, or why you should learn a language, or why you shouldn't learn a language, or the reason why I move to different countries, or what you should do if you move to another country, or a time when a language got me out of jail, for example. All these different stories are the long form. And I also have the long form on YouTube where I just speak the language. I call them the language interviews. Every time they get 1,000 views, I just do another one. These long form videos showing you that it is possible. So yes, short answer is short form is all on Instagram and TikTok, and long form is all on YouTube. I used to do the shorts on YouTube, like the same as Instagram, but I found you just got loads of idiots on the YouTube. So I stopped doing that. Only long form on the YouTube, short form on the Instagram and TikTok to bring people over to the YouTube.
Well, you've definitely found some lightning in a bottle on the shorts and the short form stuff, because you've had lots of videos get millions of views and stuff, right?
Yeah, so at one point, just when I was finishing doing these silly videos, I was getting something like 41 million views a month. That's obviously gone down now. I'm doing the serious videos. But those really worked. I think my best one, which is about a French word called bifler, which means to slap someone in the face with a penis, is now at something like 24 million views after a year. That is ridiculous. Think of a bifler. Think of a marketing agency doing something to get, I don't know, 23 million impressions. And I just made a video off the cuff and said, this might do well, posted it, and got more than a marketing agency could get for a huge company.
Do you think it's like recreatable if you gave your exact format to an employee, or you hired someone so that you could sort of like scale beyond yourself? Or do you think, or how much of it is it the magic of Peter Coles?
Do you mean if I got a second person, like a Filipino VA, to do the same videos I did and just sort of act them out?
Essentially, yeah, if you got some sort of actor.
I don't think it would work, because the passion of what I do comes through, and people who watch it will then go to my page and say, Peter Cole speaks 25 languages. Let's check out more of his videos. If it's just a random person making these silly videos, they probably wouldn't. And I know that's true because, of course, a lot of my videos have been copied by other people without result. They just took the idea. And I'm not one of those people. I'm not one of those people who hates people stealing my ideas, because I'm happy to steal other people's ideas if I think it's good. But yeah, they couldn't get the same results because they just weren't the same person. I am the brand. It is a personal brand. And people recognize me again and again when they're scrolling. Even if they don't follow, they go, oh, this guy, I hate him. He's everywhere. This language guy is so annoying.
You do show up in the Discover tabs for sure on Instagram and stuff.
Yeah, and if you just search languages on the Discover tab, like half the videos are me.
And so you think if you gave your exact same format, same sort of joke type videos to like let's just say a hot chick, you don't think it would work? Or is that maybe that's the only archetype?
That's a different story.
That's a different story.
Don't give them any ideas. If some really hot chicks start doing what I do, they're going to overtake me.
Okay. If you gave it some other dude, he couldn't really do it because you need to have some language magic.
Maybe some big booty Latina could take my my Spanish and Portuguese ideas and do it themselves.
But people do this format. Like I've seen a lot of people, they sort of copy each other's videos or formats. You see all this thing where it'd be like, some sort of like vulgar double entendre in Spanish or something. And, so it's like, it is sort of a format.
Yeah. I don't know how long people have been doing this for, because I never really saw it until I did it. And now everybody's doing these exact videos. Now there are hundreds of accounts trying to copy the same sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
because like yeah, people can see multiple versions of the same video. Like there's one, it's like flirted too hard, and now I'm in a non-touristy part of Brazil or something.
Yeah,
And it's like
everyone does that video.
yeah,
Yeah,
things like that, right? So I'm just trying to maybe learn from it a bit myself because I have a
yep.
Spanish book, and I've actually tried to pay someone to make the short form videos, but they just never really took off, and it sort of gets expensive if you're not like doing it yourself. There's a business model here.
Yes. And when it comes to making videos, I really believe in the personal brand. You can't have a random person. It has to be the brand. Because when somebody sees my face, they go, oh, it's the language guy. If you have a bunch of VAs making these videos, they're not really going to know, oh, it's that person. I've never seen him before.
Hmm.
It's your face that has to be recognizable, a face connected to an idea. Your face, if you were out there more using your face and you talked about Latin America, you would just be the Latin America guy. And anyone who's interested in Latin America would connect that face to Latin America, and then you just blow up.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, it's just an interesting question, sort of maybe growing things beyond a personality brand into like a business, and you
Mm.
definitely have a format that works for you.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, one thing I wanted to add on to that is, of course, the videos will always be me, but there are parts of the business that you can give to other people. Obviously, I used to be a language teacher myself. I can't teach all these people. I get these messages all the time like, no, I want you to teach me. I'm like, I've got hundreds of students. I don't have that much time in the day. I'm the guy who makes the videos. I hand the teaching off to other teachers. Now, the teachers are great. They're all qualified. They're all experienced. Perfect. Give it off to them. I'm still in the messages. So if somebody writes to me and says, I want to learn a language, I'm still the one person responding to them. But obviously, if this gets too big, I will have to just hire VAs on my account responding to people. So there are always things that you can give away to save yourself time. But in
mhm.
terms of content creation, it's the one thing that I believe the personal brand always has to be. It's almost, think of Andrew Tate, for example. Could you imagine Andrew Tate hiring somebody else to do his videos for him? Like some little Filipino going, you're poor. It doesn't work. He has to make his own videos, right? He has
Right,
all the
right.
people in his chats selling stuff, whatever. But he's the face of what he does.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, it's more like, Walmart, it's not like Sam Walton in the Walmart commercial, it's like
Yeah.
actors type of thing. But I understand what you're saying for sure. In the spirit of bouncing around randomly, regarding languages, I think one of the big things is getting your pronunciation corrected quickly,
Yes.
which can only really be done in like a one-on-one lesson. Because if you're just otherwise, people just go on pronouncing incorrectly for months and months and years.
Yes. And that's what these apps like Duolingo will never teach you because sure, you can hear it, but when you repeat it, I think there is one app that can sort of pick it up, but not perfectly. And it sort of says correct or incorrect. It often gets it wrong because obviously a native English speaker might respond to it and it says, oh, terrible pronunciation. What, he's a native speaker. A teacher is definitely one of the best ways to do that, especially a good teacher who can motivate you, but also push you. You've got to get that balance. You have these teachers who say, oh, you're doing a bad job all the time. And you have these teachers who say, amazing for everything. Now, you've got to have a balance on that. It really pushes you. Or if you're living in a country where you speak the language, let's say, again, we'll go back to the example American who moves to Medellin and they've got some Colombian girlfriend. She can correct him and help.
Exactly.
But if you don't have that at all, let's say for me in Arabic, I'm living in Central Europe and I'm learning Arabic with probably in a city of over 1 million people, probably maximum of 1,000 Arabs in the city. So I've got no chance to really speak the language. So that's where the teacher really comes in. Because if I was just reading it and I started getting into these habits of saying things incorrectly, then it gets really deep into the brain. You've got to get that out early, the sounds of the language.
Yeah, having someone to correct you is huge. And I think pronunciation is like really one of those underrated things. And one of those, and it just kind of leads into what you do, obviously having a language school, because I think that's one of the higher value add things are. It's
Yeah.
just some because I have things in Portuguese where I'm like, I wish someone could just tell me how this works, but I don't have someone over my shoulder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I've got two teachers who live in Portugal. So all you have to do is send a message. I've got one who does European Portuguese and one who does Brazilian Portuguese. So you got a choice. Anybody in Europe can just send me a message and learn either of those, and it's sorted. It's easy.
And this is random, but as we get to wrapping up, I really think we're almost at the point where you could have a fully AI language teacher, and it would be like pretty much as good as an instructor in a lot of ways. Like, because I'm not sure if you've played around with like just the voice, version of ChatGPT, and
Yeah.
how you can sort of speak back and forth and ask
Yes.
questions and everything.
Yeah, my girlfriend does this. She's a Ukrainian, but also a Russian speaker. And she speaks some English. It's weird because I'm British, but her English isn't amazing after being together for 5 years. But she does this and she talks to the AI, but she just winds it up. So she said that the AI will give her some advice and she'll say, that was very offensive. That is rude. And then she tries to just upset the AI. But yeah, speaking to an AI is good. I wouldn't say it's perfect. As you said, it's almost as good. I'm not in the business of almost as good. I mean, I'm in
Yeah.
the business of perfect. But as we said before, if you don't have a lot of money for language classes, rather than just sitting down and playing video games, definitely get out your phone and talk to ChatGPT in Spanish or Portuguese and get a bit of practice in there, especially for people who are still too scared to go in the street and talk to people.
Yeah, dude. Obviously, it's only going to get better, but it's pretty cool what you can do already. Like in Spanish, you could just whip out Grok and just be like, I don't know, "Dime la historia de Mexico," and then it'll just
Okay,
start like saying,
but these apps, they talk so much rubbish. You ask a simple question, you want one answer, and it gives you a whole article about it. Now, come on, just give me a short bit of information. And I love when you ask the AI a question and it gets it wrong, and then you tell it that it's wrong, and it says, "Good catch. Would you like me to correct that?" And I think, ChatGPT, I wanted you to get it correct the first time. Why am I correcting you? You're the AI.
Yeah, this is random, but I was listening to an interview and they were funding this Arabic native AI. So it basically be like
Yeah,
Chat GPT, but in Arabic, and like they put like hundreds of millions into this thing. It was like like a Davos type of interview. So
yeah.
take a look take a look at that. I'm curious. I want to learn Arabic too. So I'm kind of you got to send me some of your materials offline on WhatsApp, some of the
Yeah.
workbooks I should buy.
Yes, absolutely. And you've got to choose which kind of Arabic you want to learn first.
I'm down for golf. Yeah, I'm down for golf
Yeah,
because in the Maghreb you can just speak French.
yeah. That's very true. That's what I did. I was in Morocco a couple of years ago and I only had basic Arabic and I realized, why bother? They've got the worst dialect of all of them, by the way. It's the hardest to understand. So I'm just like, I just speak to you in French. So much easier.
Yeah, this was one of my original, inspirations. I thought about like Tim Ferriss and his language learning approach, and then I got on to Benny Lewis and Fluent in
Yeah.
3 months, who was an early inspiration. You probably that guy's like the OG. I feel when it
That
comes
was
to
like, how old is he now? I feel like he released that book like 15 years ago or something.
the Irish polyglot. He's still
Yeah.
kicking. He's still around. I would love to get that guy on the podcast. That guy's sick.
Yeah.
And then I kind of got into the idea of like, what would it be like to go to every country in the world?
Mm.
Counting countries, go to every country. We've actually interviewed a lot of these people on the My Latin
Yeah.
Life podcast that have been to every country. And every
Oof.
time I get someone on the podcast that's been to every country, I ask them like, what languages do you know fluently?
Mm.
And inevitably, they're all pretty good in Spanish, but that's pretty much it. Like they don't really learn Russian to
Yeah.
hit all the ex-Soviet states and stuff. They don't really learn Arabic when they hit the whatever 30 Arab countries.
Yeah.
And so, and sometimes I look at that, I'm like, how? Like, weren't you like waiting in a lot of airport lounges? Like, couldn't you have picked up a language book? I think it's part of it.
Yeah, I don't know what else they were doing. Maybe some of these guys are filming, they're vlogging. I mean, I suppose if you're going to travel to every country in the world, you have to make money somehow. So vlogging would be one way to. Maybe they're just too busy editing the videos and whatever to learn the language, or maybe they just don't
I
care. Maybe
really
that's not what they enjoy.
If you look at like, the top 100 most traveled people, and there's websites that rank these people,
Yeah,
not a lot of them are like super polyglots.
no.
And I so it's like, why not? Like, why not at least get the six sort of UN languages down, and be, I feel like that would complement well.
That's very true, but part of language learning is being able to just sit down and focus. If I'm constantly traveling, this will be much harder, especially if I'm doing one-on-one class online, a bit like we're talking right now on a video call. If you're constantly in a plane or constantly in an airport, or you're going to all these random countries like Zambia and Laos, and you got terrible internet connection, or you're in the middle of Bolivia, it's probably going to be quite hard to really get into studying it. You might have to stay in one country for a couple of months and really focus and take those classes to be able to at least speak to a level that you can hold a conversation. Really focus.
Hmm. So that's my slow long term goal.
So what have you got? You got English, Spanish, Portuguese, and now you're going for
French.
Arabic, French.
Yeah. So romance languages got pretty down, but that was the idea. Is like,
Well, you
might
are the
as well.
Latin podcast, so
Yeah, exactly. So, but I've studied some Russian, some Arabic, some Chinese,
yeah,
just to like at least kind of like the 20 to 50 hours, just to get an idea
yeah.
of that kind of thing. No, but dude, thank you for coming on the podcast and telling us a little bit more behind the scenes, mixing
Yeah.
business and language learning, two of my favorite topics.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to be here. And if anybody's watched this and has got any other questions they think after, I want to ask Peter that, you can just send me a message. It's Peter Coles Languages everywhere. My DMs are open. Just send me a message and I'll help you out.
Awesome. And we'll put a link in the description as well. You can just scroll down and there will be a link to his Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. Any final message for the audience before we sign off?
No, except if you are learning a language, good luck, be confident, talk as much as you can, don't fear mistakes, and you're going to make it.
Love it. This has been another episode of the My Latin Life podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast, leave a 5-star review, whatever your podcast player, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Please subscribe. We put out 2 episodes a week with amazing guests like Mr. Peter Coles, and you won't want to miss an episode. Ciao for now.